In his right hand, he has his ballpoint pen. He becomes conscious with his hand on the paper, and he had written these squares and lines on the back of the motel receipt, very similar to the strange story of Jim Peniston, who had the experience in Rendlesham Forest on December 26, 1980 with John Burroughs and Ed Kovansak. And John Burroughs was completely and totally, as he said, like blinded by zeros and ones that held in the front of his mind's eye. And it took about 2 days, and he thought he was going crazy. And Jim Peniston finally sat down and wrote all the zeros and ones in the back of his notebook. And no one on the planet, including John Burroughs, ever knew until we were in production on an Ancient Aliens TV program. Jim, John, and I were in Phoenix with the production crew, and that was in October of 2010. And it was that night at the end of production that Jim said, "Did I ever show you the back of my notebook?" Now, I went to binary code translators that I have worked with and I trust. And the first to come back to me, some of you may know, he's really good on binary code, is Horace Drew in Australia. He's a geneticist by profession. The two other men, one a retired Navy captain, the third is a man who has had degrees in college and works in analysis in photos. They all three looked at those squares and ones. And what I'm going to do is, this was the first one, they all concur. There's no dispute with Horace Drew. Continuous protection of humanity, a latitude, longitude. 49 degrees, 27 minutes north, and 11 degrees, 5 minutes east. That is the latitude, longitude of Hohenberg, Germany, about 100 miles northeast of Nuremberg. When I encountered that on my own Google Earth search, knowing what I have been told about the role of the Nazis and their collaboration, or a subsect of them, going back way before Hitler and World War II, but a part of that same arc. And that Piano Monday has played such an important extraterrestrial base role in terms of establishing some kind of a base of some of them interacting with the planet, and taking what I know about what was known to some people in the UK and the US government as far back as the early 1920s about Piano Monday, and coming up into what we all know as World War II, and what was the goal of Adolf Hitler. The goal of Adolf Hitler was to put a super race in charge of the planet and eliminate the Hebrews. That's what he wanted to do. And that what happened in World War II could have been writ large in our faces without our understanding that extraterrestrials have battled through human containers, minds, and souls in the name of political power and territory. But it's the humans that have been provoked into these battles by something else that is larger. Just keep that in mind. And what a strange irony, continuous protection of humanity. 100 miles northeast of Nuremberg, where the trials of the atrocities of World War II were carried out. Expose hidden knowledge to all citizens. I could not agree more. Advancement imperative for planetary survival. Beware of Orion 1350.3 and Z. This, we don't spell it with a U, Ruticuli, Zeta Reticuli. 39.1, there's a question mark on the binary 70. This is Horace Drew, PhD's comment. The two coded numbers, 1350.3 and 39.1, question mark 70, tell us the distance in light years from Earth to the Orion Nebula, which is 1,350 light years, or to the binary star system of Zeta Reticuli, which we don't spell it that way either. In the United States, we spell it Reticul, 2 I's. It's a binary star system. Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2. How many are familiar with the Betty and Barney Hill case from 1961? Well, that's what her star map was. Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 was the source of the extraterrestrials that picked her and her husband up. So he said, sources of grays. Well, I can stand here with some confidence to tell you that from everything I know from whistleblowers, we think of Kleenex. When we say Kleenex, once upon a time it was a company and it had one source. And now Kleenex is a generic around the world. There might have been a source of a particular type of extraterrestrial biological entity that has a particular shaped head with particular eyes that uses black lenses to see in a bunch of frequencies, and the so-called gray bodies. It does not mean that that is confined to one planet in one solar system. There has been a spreading through other solar systems. So to say a singular source no longer applies. This last sentence, avoid signal messages sent. This is what Horace Drew wrote. Avoid capture of signal by the grays. I think not. I think this is the warning that has come, interestingly enough, in crop formations since the early 1990s. Beware of deception has been the theme, and beware of sending and receiving signals. This year of 2015, a warning about SETI and Earth sending out signals when they don't know what is on the other end of what could receive those signals has come from Stephen Hawking, physicist, Elon Musk from Tesla, and Bill Gates from Microsoft. All three of them in the last year warning that we may be making a terrible mistake of trying to communicate out to a universe with signals that can be traced to Earth. Why did those three men start making such a warning now? This is the binary translation of Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston's zeros and ones written in his notebook back in December of 1980. And this was a translation by Dr. Horace Drew and astronomer Mike Reed, who worked with me on several very important projects, a brilliant man. What a huge loss. 2.5 years ago, he just dropped dead in his house. His wife, everybody were stunned. He was doing so much behind the scenes work, and she didn't unfortunately have an autopsy, but it was very strange, and it's a huge loss. He was involved with this translation. Exploration of humanity. Later on, this was resolved into the word origin, 8100. A latitude, longitude, just like the one we just looked at from Georgia, meaning in this next line, with the word continuous, for planetary advance, fourth coordinate. This has just been volunteered. Does that mean time? We call it the fourth dimension. Is there an effort to have us focus on time, timelines being used, continuous, more unclear, and the word before? There is a theme in these binary codes that even extend back to the one that I think some of you in this audience would know about, Crabwood, the year after 9/11, where it is an alien in the wheat that is holding a huge circle of binary code. And when that was translated, it was beware of deception. And it was, it's the same thing, trying to help humanity. Time is running out, time is short, but help is on the way, or there's help trying to help us. These have been messages also in the crop formations. So arbitrarily, the Prometheus Productions doing Ancient Aliens, they chose this binary of 5209-1313 and said it was the mythical High Brazil out west of Ireland, allegedly some kind of an island that would only appear once every 7 years, and then people would try to get to it and they could never get to it, and then it would disappear and come back 7 years later. It's a very strange historic reference to this High Brazil, but that fit into the Ancient Aliens concept. It was the astronomer and Horace Drew, they thought that the decimal points should be 1.31